Hello again, everybody. Sam here, otherwise I'm Skullgrim Throwback again for another video, and I'm sitting in the dark today. Well, kind of sitting in the dark, even though I've got the desk lamp on, which is the only source of light that I really need for this video, because today I'm going to be doing another Transformers review, kind of, sort of, but something a little bit different, because I didn't want to do just another toy review. At least not yet, because among the several dozen other things that I want to talk about, I wanted to kind of really do this video as a sort of a, I guess you can say a sort of redux with better lighting and in better definition, because this is a video that I really wanted to do again and do differently and probably do better as well. And also showcase in a lot more detail, because I'm doing a book review today. A Transformers book review, not a comic review or anything like that, a book review. Even though comics are books, but you get the whole idea. Yeah, a Transformers book review. I'm doing a review on one of a couple of the most obscure and probably very well-known sources of Transformers information out there at the moment. Because with the releases of current titles, I mean, it'd be important to at least cover one of the things that has kind of really fallen into obscurity a little bit, and it's one that is kind of an important thing. It's an important part of pop culture in a lot of ways. Today I'm going to be taking a look at, as you probably might have guessed from the title below, but I'll just show it to you anyway. I'm doing a Redux review look of the Transformers First Series Complete book, which, if you remember, a few years ago, I reviewed this thing back some time ago, and this was given to me by Mr. Jamie Harris, or, as you may know from YouTube, as Jamie5824, his channel will be hovering somewhere around here. He doesn't really do videos as much anymore, but he's got an interesting collection of all G1 figures, so if you want to at least look at the earlier videos that he's done, because he gave this to me during one of the meetups back in 2000. I think it was 2009 or 11. I really can't remember, but it's been such a long time since I've really looked at this book. But he gave this to me during one of the meets as a present. So this is, of course, again for Jamie, and of course I'm looking at this in a lot more depth. So we are going to be taking a much more closer look at this book and seeing exactly what is so great about it and how this is an important part of Transformers memorabilia. So, let's go take a look. So, where to really start with this book? Because it's very difficult to talk about something like this that is very obscure, that not many people have seen or heard of, especially not today. I think the best I can do is really tell you a little bit about this important item, in that this book was only sold in Japan, so it hasn't been translated into English or re-released outside of Japan. It's only just been sold in that country. So I have no idea how Jamie was able to get hold of this, but thank you, sir, for giving it to me as a gift. And it only focuses on G1, the American continuity, nothing from the Japanese series like Headmasters, Masterforce, and so on, but mostly the American continuity. So from 1984 to 1987 cartoon years. So it focuses on that part of the franchise. But what I like about it, especially from the front cover, is that the cover of it has the animation drawings from the openings of the show, such as you can see the Seeker, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp transforming into from jet to robot mode to blast the Autobots in the opening of the first season, and then of course Megatron doing his own thing, and then the Aerobots combining to form Superion, and then you have Mirage transforming into his car mode. So really the cover is quite interesting as well, to focus on the animation side of G1. One thing that I'll do is I won't focus on every single page, because otherwise I'll be here for a while, but I'll focus on some of the more important things of this book, as well as give you an idea a little bit about Transformers and how it started in the East before it became what it currently is now in the West. So let's just open this thing up and take a look. And you can clearly see as well, and it color codes it very nicely, how this part right here in red are the Autobots, this part right here is the Decepticons in purple, and of course this part is focusing on the shows as well as some of the other important stuff in Transformers of G1 around that time. So, opening this up and taking a look and see, and right here, the one thing I like about it in the opening of the book is it focuses on these really nicely done dioramas, of course, focusing as the years go on. So, in the first page, we have Megatron versus Optimus Prime, and then, of course, on the second page, Rodimus Prime versus Galvatron, and Rodimus Prime looking all chunky as his G1 toy always does. And then, of course, continuing on from that, we have Omega Supreme versus Devastator, kind of really highlighting the rivalry that both these characters had in the original show. And then, of course, Menasor versus Superion. And continuing on, we have Skylynx versus Predaking, and Defensor versus Bruticus. And you can see in the corner right there, huddled away in the background, Metroplex right in the background in city mode. Just sitting there, not doing very much. And continuing on, we have Metroplex in a slight mistransformation versus Trypticon, and then, of course, the Technobots fighting Abominus, which, something about this really kind of is a little bit weird, because, of course, Abominus is combined altogether from the Terracons, and the Technobots are just like, well, we're just attacking him separately, so let's not combine into Computron. That doesn't make any sense to me, but hey-ho. And then finally we have Scorponok versus Fortress Maximus. So, moving on to how the evolutionary process of the toys kind of went on from the Microman Diaclone era to pretty much focusing on the Citybots a little bit in some way. And the Headmaster concept as well. But like I said before, I mean, this book focuses mostly on the American continuity. So, the first, second season, third season movie, and the fourth season, or the Rebirth, probably known. But of course, in Japan, it was they're different names. So, with the first and second season being called Super Lifeform Transformers in Japan, and Transformers 2010, the third season right there, and the movie, which wasn't released in Japan until 1990, which explains why characters like Wheeljack and Prowl and so on and so forth appeared in the Japanese continuity, and then Season 4, which Japan didn't get till much later on. But of course, showing the leaders, the popular characters of this franchise, we have Optimus Prime, Rodimus Prime, Megatron, and Galvatron. I don't know why all of a sudden I just got that confused for Megatron, but that, yeah, Optimus Prime focusing all the way down to the bottom with Galvatron. So that's quite nice to see that. And in the middle, in Japanese, if you know Japanese, you'll be able to read this. If not, you're stuck. But it kind of it details everything about the series, about the cartoon, and how long it lasted. And continuing on, we have a little bit more of the information from the entirety of the show, such as the episodes, the best and the worst of G1 in some way. Well, not probably the best and the worst, but in some way, some of the more defining moments of G1 and the characters that would go on to do bigger and better things. And really, it's just amazing to see the information that's supplied in this. So, of course, with beginning off with the Autobots, we have Optimus Prime and his original toy, which, the one thing I like about this book is the way that it's laid out. You have the toy in its alt mode, right there. You have the toy in its alt mode, and as you follow on from that, the toy slowly transforms into robot mode. Which, that's really, really awesome right there. And of course, at the bottom, you can see the animation models that we used in the show, and the head, oh, hang on, there you go, the head sculpt as well of the design of the robot. So, that's a nice little thing to see as well. Also, showing the world's smallest Optimus, which, depending on whether or not the toy managed to survive the years, they had a couple of toys re-released and remade and remolded into different toys for different lines. Excuse me. And of course, continuing on from that, we have a little bit of the backstory of who Optimus Prime is from when he was Orion Pax, how he got killed by Megatron, and then he got turned into Optimus Prime, and the things he went on to go do, such as fight Megatron and get killed in the movie, and showing Masterpiece Optimus Prime, which is a nice toy, and I don't have, and I really should own, because it looks awesome. Yeah, something in that tone. Continuing on, we have, of course, we have Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime, depending on what you want to call him. But yeah, Rodimus Prime's original toy was a very strange looking one, because it was mostly a brick. Which I never owned, nor would I want to. But you know, I think with like third-party toys, you can get a Rodimus Prime very easily. But I mean, with this was before all that, so you can clearly see how much development they went to get these toys made. So each of the pages of this book will tell you a little bit about the character and show the toy in its alt mode, transforming to robot mode, or robot mode transforming to alt mode. And it's a nice bit of information as well, because really seeing what the character did in the cartoon and seeing the sort of impact that character had as the years went by. So these characters, like fan favorites, you have Trailbreaker and Ironhide and Hound. So it's interesting to see that this sort of information really just gets shown as well. So there is a lot to talk about. Each of these pages really shows the characters in a lot of depth. I mean, even characters that didn't get toys, like for example, DevCon, who of course didn't get a toy until years later as a convention exclusive figure. So this character managed to get some treatment in some way, but only as a convention exclusive. So in some way, that's a good thing. I mean, at least this character and what this character was able to do wasn't forgotten in a way that, well, he was there, he's just fallen into obscurity, let's just leave him alone. And this interesting page right here focuses on the female Transformers, or the fembots, if you want to use the proper fan terminology, and the development of one of the first RC toys that never got made. Now imagine this for a second. If you were a child growing up in the 80s, and when you first saw that there was there were female Transformers, you would think, hang on, why would this be a thing? Isn't this a show that's aimed for boys? And that sounds a bit sexist, but think of it in some way that these characters appeared on screen, and we never really got toys of them until the acceptance of the fact that there are not only male Transformers fans, but there are female Transformers fans to allow this sort of thing to happen. It's interesting to really see how much of an impact this would have back then, and how much of an impact this would have later on, to see that we would eventually get good toys, and see how that we would finally get toys of a proper toy of RC, and proper toys of characters like Chromia. I hope one day that we'll see toys of Elita 1 and of Firestar, because these characters do deserve more attention. Nice to see that. Nice to see though the RC and Chromia have one. RC and Chromia have toys as well. So that's a pretty good thing. Especially when you see how weird the original RC toy looks, because the legs look thin, the arms look crap, the head looks awful. You can't even see it on this camera at all. But how much and just seeing how that was able to turn into that kind of doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. It was back then. Years have gone by, so things are a lot more different now. Focusing on that, we have the mini-bots, more mini-bots, and of course characters like Bumblebee back when he was adorable and not annoying in some way, and how he would eventually turn into characters like Goldbug, which that's pretty neat in some way. Focusing on that as well, we have the Dinobots and the animation models that they have, and the toys, which are gorgeous toys. Love to see reissues of them. I remember specifically that Slag was my first ever Transformers toy, and I don't have any more, sadly, which, it's kind of a shame, but, you know, if I can get a hold of him for a cheap price, which is impossible, I can at least say, well, I've got him now, so that's one thing out of the way. Yeah, but just seeing all these toys and seeing the characters as well, especially Skyfire, or Jetfire as his toy is, because if you remember correctly, Jetfire's toy was a toy taken from the Macross franchise, or known as Robotech in the US. Hard to believe that still exists. But yeah, and how that toy, we will never see a reissue of that because the rights to Bandai and all that stuff. But you know, there's a new Jetfire toy out. It looks nice. It has a really gorgeous look to it. I might get it one day, but try to find the room. More of these toys like Broadside, which if you remember in episodes like Carnage and C Minor, how he had a different design and how how he had a red face and he had a mouth. His animation model and his toy, it shows that he has a mouth plate. So you only really you only really got to see this this particular look of Broadside in episodes like The Burden Hardest to Bear and the Japanese opening of the 3rd season of Transformers. So you didn't really get to see this particular version of the toy all that much, the character all that much, which is a shame. But hey ho, the Aerial Bots, the original toys, nice looking toys, very vintage and cool. Which they've been now released in the Combiner Wars line, which is nice to see them get more attention. Moving on, of course, we have the Protector Bots, the Technobots, more of the City Bots, the Headmasters, and seeing how they look and how they transform, and how, because like I said, this is mostly focusing on the American continuity, so it only just focuses on their appearance in the Rebirth, which, as short as it was, at least it managed to introduce these characters a lot more, especially considering characters like Brainstorm, who has who's gained a much larger popularity in the the recent fiction of IDW with his fucking briefcase. You know, it's interesting to see how much this character back then didn't really have much to do, when now he has a lot to do. So, in some way, we're thankful for that. Moving on, we have, of course, hang on. No, going the wrong way. Sorry about that. Yes, continuing on, we have a little bit more information about the toys and the characters, focusing on the 2 record characters like Topspin and Twin Twist, the Jumpstarter line, as I remember. And this is an interesting bit of merchandise. We have here 2 Transformers watches. One of them is called, Deceptor, and the other one is called Autoceptor, which these watches, if you were a child in the 80s and you saw these in a catalogue and you begged your parents to buy you these, you'd be very disappointed, because I think that these toys really only sold in Japan. But they are they're interesting, a bit dated, but they are interesting toys in a lot of ways. I mean, I can't really see them standing out very well today in today's current technology, but you know, I think that back then these were a big deal. Moving on to a little bit of the cartoon side of things, we have the main focus on characters like Alpha Trion, and before that he was A3, Vector Sigma, and the human cast who were supporting characters for the Autobots, such as the Witwikis, Spike, Daniel, Carly, and Sparkplug, and of course Chip Chase, who vanished after Season 2, same with Sparkplug. As well as, apart from the human characters, we do see a lot of human characters, but we also see the alien races that appeared, such as Lord Gaikani, Scuzoids, Lizardo. These 3 arseholes from Carnage and C Minor. Old Snake, or Cobra Commander, Aaron, so on. So really a lot of important characters in there. And the human cast as well, such as Astoria Ritz, Prince Jamal, Augie Kane, these 3 kids from Bot. And also as well focusing on the other robots, because this was a show that, after Season 2, it went very universal and decided to go to different galaxies. But before that, we focused on characters like Nightbird, who's become a bit of an important figure in Transformers recently, and the Guardian Robots, which are modeled after Omega Supreme, or Omega Supreme was modeled after the Guardian Robots. So that's really interesting to see that. So, yeah, I mean, the information in this is really, really well done. Galvatron's toy, which looked silly back then, I remember having the toy as a child, and you know what, it's a noisy, loud dildo with lights and sounds. But I will say it's a lot better than the classic Galvatron, just saying. But yeah, so this toy is an important source of information. It's a very precise bit of information detailing the characters, the humans, the aliens, everything that appeared in the original G1 cartoon. So it's an amazing piece of information. But the problem is that it's only in Japanese, and I think there are 2 copies of this book selling on eBay. So if you have the cash, get the books. Get the books straight away, because this is a rare piece of pop culture history, and I do mean that a great deal. This is an important part, a rare, important piece of pop culture history, just if you are a fan of the original Transformers, and some of them are, and some people are, but really, yeah, I mean, look at this, focusing on the Quintessons and the Sharkticons, even though this character, even though he didn't really have a character, but I remember that one of the Sharkticons was released in the 86 line, and he was called Gnaw. even though he looks more like a piranha than a shark, which, name confusion, he looks more like a piranha than a shark, but whatever, so, don't know why I'm bitching about that now, even though it's irrelevant, but, yeah. Also, as well, seeing the history of characters like Unicron, and seeing Primacron, the space monkey, who was in Call of the Primitives. But seeing the history of Unicron, and seeing the development stages of the Unicron toys that kind of went by through the years, and how they failed to really get much notice, and until we got the Armada Unicron, which is a gorgeous toy. Yeah, so the information is wonderful in Japanese, but still wonderful. A nice bit of box art there, which is, it's dated, but it's a part of its time in a lot of ways. As well as on this page as well, you see the two Diaclone, the two heads of the Diaclone line, Hideaki Oke and Kojin Ono. Both of these two legends in Takara pretty much were the head designers of Microman and of the Microman Diaclone lines. Because if you remember, anyone who has that much vast knowledge in Transformers will know that the series before it was Transformers started off as two series in Japan called Microman and Diaclone. And it wasn't until executives from the Hasbro came along, looked at these two lines, brought them over to the US, gave them new names and identities, and called them Transformers. So there is a lot to be thankful for that. So these two guys are pioneers in Transformers more than anybody would give them credit for. As well as seeing that there was a lot of merchandise from Transformers, especially considering how much that was sold, such as a train set, a race car track, which is the equivalent to what Scale Electric does these days, costumes and walkie-talkies and all that sort of thing. So you have to really imagine, if you were a child growing up in the 80s and you saw these and you wanted these and you weren't able to afford them and you had to beg for your parents to get them, you would not miss. You would definitely want them. You want every part of Transformers. You want every bit of merchandising in your life, and it's not just in the US, but in Japan as well. So you can see how far this franchise has grown to really give us the things that we see a lot of conventions, which go for a lot less. Well, some of them go for a lot less, some of them go for a lot more. But some of these things at conventions, people would pay for just to have them in President Glass. But also as well, focusing on the Diaclone toys. So both Yoke and Ono were involved in designing these toys before, of course, they became what they are in Transformers now. So of course you have characters like Prowl, Sideswipe, Smokescreen, Mirage, Wheeljack, and that's interesting as well, considering the fact that some of these molds, some of them did get re-released around the early 2000s, but some of the molds are kind of lost forever, so we will never see reissues of toys like Wheeljack or Mirage, which I guess in some way that's a mixed thing. Some people do want the original toys, but then again, of course, they're happy with the classics line. But then again, if you want the actual toy, you would need to go on eBay or go to a car boot sale to buy these things. So these toys are important in a lot of ways than you can imagine. The Dinobots, and of course the stages of Megatron and the cassettes, and of course, and closing this off, we have a picture and a little bit of information of one of the designers in Transformers, Shoji Kawamori, who designed Masterpiece Starscream. If you know who Shoji Kawamori is, he wrote, created, and designed anime such as Macross and Escaflowne and Eureka 7. So he was a mechanical designer for a lot of those animes that people grew up with, and some of the recent titles as well. But he designed this, which is the VF-1 Valkyrie fighter from Macross or Robotech, depends on what you want to call it. But this toy became Jetfire, or Skyfire, or whatever he's called. But yeah, a lot of information regarding this guy, so that's worth having. And also, as well, leading on to the end of the book, of course, we are given a little bit of information synopsis about G1's episodes from Season 1 to Season 2 to Season 3 to Season 4, and it's just interesting to see that all get developed. So, yeah, a lot of what's in this book is really, really interesting. I think that that the people in charge of this book, who managed to put out every bit of information as they could, managed to really drench it in so much knowledge. Especially considering that it's in Japanese, and I do not know Japanese at all, so I'm kind of stuck, and I'm pretty sure anybody else would be. But this is a gorgeous book, so this is, what can I say about this book to really close it off? It's an important part of pop culture history. It's one that I think, if you are able to get a hold of for a cheap price, you should own, and if you're able to read Japanese, and if you have a translator with you on standby, then hopefully, then this book might gain more knowledge to be re-released, I hope. And finally, closing it off, we have Rumble or Frenzy doing what Rumble or Frenzy does best. Just pounding the ground. So, yeah, that pretty much is it, showcasing this book in all of its glory. So what more can I say is that it's an interesting part of pop culture history. If you're a Transformers fan, it'd be worth owning. If you are interested in G1, the American continuity specifically, then you should get a hold of this book. Even if you don't know Japanese, it's still worth owning. So really, if I'm just glad that I managed to get this from Jamie. So thank you again, sir, for giving me this. This is a wonderful gift, even if it is a bit dirty, but it's still a very good gift. Everything about it really is just a nice book. So anyway, this has been the Transformers First Series complete catalogue, and I'm Skullgirl Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. I'll see you all soon.